Greetings. This is lesson number 2, which is chapter 2 in your textbook. The course is Management 431, and this chapter specifically deals with business and staffing strategies. Much of this will probably be a review for you because if you've had Management 430 or if you've had any basic intro to management classes, 330, 331 as they're offered here at SIUE, you are familiar with the concept of corporate strategy and what it takes. So we'll do a review of that. We'll get through that pretty quickly, and then we'll get into how staffing strategy evolves from corporate strategy and proceeds from there. In terms of the learning objectives for this chapter in this particular lesson, we're going to address everything surrounding the basics of staffing strategy. We want to know how staffing strategy supports business strategies. We want to be able to apply a theory called the resource-based view of the firm. This is a theory from strategy researchers who look at how the resources of the organization help the company have a sustainable competitive advantage. And so from this perspective, as it applies to staffing, we'll see how the human personnel, the people who are working in the organization, how they help the organization have a competitive advantage. We're going to talk about the difference between talent and job-oriented staffing, and specifically why talent-oriented staffing is the goal, or should be the goal for organizations. We'll talk about human capital advantage and human process advantages and what's the difference between the two. And lastly, we'll address the variety of strategic staffing decisions that organizations need to make. This lecture is broken down into 2 mini videos, making it a little easier to manage the information in small chunks. So why does one company succeed and another fail? Well, I think that's pretty self-evident. We all recognize that 2 companies in the same industry, in the same town, have different personnel, different leadership, different strategic objectives, different stockholders or shareholders that are involved and are influencing the decisions that the organization needs to make. So how the key players see the environment and interpret the environment means that all sorts of things are going to be different, even if we have some similarities in industry and things like that. So there are real differences in the financial decisions that each company makes, the technological capabilities that those companies have, and the strategic objectives that each company addresses. So how staffing plays a role in this is that even when we're staffing the CEO and the top management team, we need to be thinking about how do we attract and retain and motivate and develop these people in alignment with the strategic objectives of our particular company. So what we do is really unique. And of course, we're going to have a unique environment, and that may be why we fail and somebody else is successful, or why we're successful and somebody else fails, because no 2 organizational environments are alike, as you should remember from Management 330 and 331. Lastly, staffing plays a really central role in helping the company then create that competitive advantage. So if we're involved in, from top to bottom, making sure we have the right personnel to bring in intellectual capital and all sorts of capabilities to the company, the staffing strategy is the thing that makes that competitive advantage possible, or one of the many things that makes that competitive advantage possible. So as we made reference in the learning objectives for this chapter, the next thing on our agenda is to address what is the resource-based view of the firm. Basically what it means is the company's resources and its competencies, human talent, all sorts of resources that we use can help the organization produce a sustained competitive advantage. We can do this by lowering the cost of products or services, providing something of unique value, or some combination of the two. And if you recall, related to Porter's differentiation strategies or cost leadership strategies, it's consistent with that. I mean, the resource-based view of the firm is based on some of the work of Porter anyway. So fundamentally, we gain advantage by offering a unique product or service or customer service representative, quality of our product, innovation of our product, or the cost, keeping it short, keeping it cheap, keeping it reasonably priced for individuals. All of those things are the things that help us to gain a competitive advantage. And so it's about how we leverage our resources and how we utilize our resources to basically achieve one of those criteria. The resource-based view of the firm expects two major things. Number one, it expects a certain quality of skills for the workforce to meet the strategic demand. Again, if you're McDonald's and you're hiring a fry cook, the expectation of skill level is significantly lower than if you're Apple and you're hiring a software engineer. So you can see the difference there. The second thing that it addresses, besides the skills of the workforce, but it's the motivational climate, because as you remember from expectancy theory, it's not enough to just say, my workers appear to be motivated. You have to do a lot of things in your environment to help your workers become good performers and ultimately become satisfied. That's how you can utilize your human resources to the best of their ability. So you have to make sure you train them and you select people with the right skills, that you've got good company policies and practices to make sure that people have the ability to do their job, that they've got all the resources they need to do their job, that they're being paid fairly, that they have enriched, interesting jobs. All of these things, intrinsic and extrinsic motivators, are a big part of that. And if an organization doesn't pay attention to the motivational environment, doesn't matter how many good people you hire, if they're not motivated to do the job, this is going to be problematic for us. So HR management is valued for its role in helping to implement a scenario, right? By making sure we've got the right people in the right place to do it. So that implementation of it. But if you hire the right people with the right skill set, it's not just about implementing the strategy, but it's also about generating the strategic capability, generating the ideas, generating opportunities. And we want people that can not only implement and, like a little soldier, right, being given an order and then going out and doing it, but also can implement and come up with greater ideas and more creativity to help us develop a good strategic capability. And that's the role of staffing. It helps us to be more adaptable, be more flexible, and hopefully gives us the leg up over the competition. If we're really good at managing the people side of things better than the company, down the road from us, we're going to have a better advantage, all things being equal. So in order for a resource, whether that's a financial resource or a human capital resource or even a technological resource, in order for a resource to help the firm attain a competitive advantage, it needs 5 criteria. Number 1, that the resource should be valuable to the firm because it enables them to exploit opportunities and neutralize threats. So whether this is technology or humans or what have you, the resource has to be able to take advantage of opportunities and neutralize threats. Number 2, that the resource has to be rare, which means others don't have it. So if we invest more in our human capital, in our human resources in the company, we give them unique skills that we think will serve our company best. Other companies are not going to have those unique skills. Our people will have those skills, and that gives us that competitive advantage. So the resource has to be rare, so somebody else can't have it. It can't be a commodity, because then it's a level playing field and everybody has the same thing, right? Number 3, the resource must not be easily imitated. So what we're saying is that you cannot just copy what somebody else has or does, that it has to be rare and not easy to copy or imitate. So again, by human capital, because human beings are all so unique and they bring unique things to the organization, human capital is not easily imitated. And if you do a good job training them, developing them, and they want to stay at the company, you then have that to capitalize on. Same thing, they should not be easily substituted or replaced with another resource, which means, so great, I don't have the skilled people, but I'll use technology instead to do that. Well, technology can't do the thinking that humans can. They can do basic functional activities, but they can't think creatively, right? I mean, artificial intelligence still to this day is not capable of doing creative thinking in the way that we think about creativity. So this resource, whatever resource it is, should not be easily substituted or replaced by another resource. So it's not like you can say, oh, well, my worker left the company, I'll just plug a new worker in there and it won't be a problem at all because they can do the exact same thing. They're twins, right? They're not really twins, but you know what I'm saying. They are so much alike. It's as if one ended and the other began, and there's no sort of beginning and end to it. And that's not a good competitive advantage, because if your people can be easily replaced, then you're not doing anything unique or fun. You're not doing anything that's uniquely challenging. You're not doing anything that's going to get you a competitive advantage. And lastly, with all these things, the company has to be organized in such a way to exploit that resource. And I don't mean exploit in a negative connotation of that word. I mean to utilize that resource, to be able to utilize it to the best of our advantage. We have to be organized in such a way to do that. So if we need our people to be creative, the last thing we want is HR systems that don't encourage creativity, but encourage people to be afraid to be creative and afraid to take risks. So we want an environment, and we want a culture, and we want policies and practices that encourage people to take risks, because it's only in that kind of environment can people utilize their full skills. So the next few slides are an overview of what business strategy is, and specifically at how it helps the company be successful. So strategy, by definition, is in essence how the company competes in the marketplace. Whatever method they use, even if it's reactive, technically a reactive strategy is not really a strategy, because a strategy assumes that there's a plan and there's forethought, whereas a reactive strategy, which is like Miles and Snow's reactors, those are not really strategies, because in essence there's no plan. There's nothing in place, and they're simply just responding to the environment, which can be rather negative. But in terms of competitive advantage, anything that gives the firm an edge over rivals in attracting customers and defending itself at competition is considered a competitive advantage. To have a competitive advantage, you have to give them superior value for the price, whether it's superior quality, superior service, or a good price for whatever it is that you're offering, which is why something like Walmart, people go into Walmart and don't expect to buy things that are going to last them 10, 15, 20, 30 years. They go in, they buy towels, and they know that it'll last them for a few years. They go in and they buy furniture, and they know it's not going to withstand, a huge beating. It will serve a purpose for the price. So it's about the cost benefit that customers basically consider. It's like, what price am I willing to pay for what level of quality or service or innovation? And that's the trade-off that goes on. And so companies can compete along that whole continuum, from low cost, relatively low quality for products, to high cost, high quality, and sort of everywhere in between. And that's the goal, is figuring out where your company is on that continuum with that cost benefit, quality, quality price trade-off, and then deciding then how all their policies and practices have to support that. So table 2.2 from the textbook shows the sources of competitive advantage, and I really like this because it's a really simple and easy way to think about the different resources or the different ways that we can develop a competitive advantage in the marketplace. One is by making sure we've got innovative products, because people like to tinker, people like innovations, and people like new bells and whistles. You can also compete on cost. You can compete on service or quality, higher quality products. People are willing to pay more, so that's a strategy there. People like to associate with a particular brand, and this is where a lot of social justice marketing and things like that comes into play. Some people who are gay and lesbian don't want to buy products from Hobby Lobby or from Chick-fil-A, and people who are conservative don't want to buy things from Starbucks and things like that. And so people like to put their money behind a brand that matches their values and has the kind of image that they want to associate with. You can also have a good distribution channel, one that is faster to market and may even block your competition. And that's one of the things that Walmart does. They have a really great just-in-time inventory system, so their distribution network is incredibly fast, and they're able to get products in and out onto their shelves very quickly. Speed also, the speed at getting your product to the consumer. It's not just about the distribution channel, but it's how quickly you can go from idea conception to delivery to the consumer. That's important. Convenience, right? What people look for convenience, and what kinds of products or services can you offer that create convenience for people? And that's where things like Uber and Lyft, developed, right? The idea that we wanted to have a convenient way to ride share without having to have a taxi system. A lot of smaller communities, for example, even here in Edwardsville, really doesn't have a taxi system, but we have Lyft if you want it. Lyft is available in the local area. Being the first to market, and that goes along with speed. If you can develop something unique and get it to market before your competitors, you're in a really good place as well. So these are all wonderful sources of competitive advantage, and behind all of these ideas are good human resources who can help with the branding, help with the productivity, help with the creativity and the innovation and the speed to market and all those things. They come up with the ideas, and then we want to be able to capitalize on that. And that's how staffing strategy supports competitive advantage. Business strategy is not just about how we compete, but it's how our strategy disseminates across the functional areas of the firm. For example, how does marketing or HR support the business strategy? How does accounting support the business strategy? How does finance? How does operations? How do all of those things support the business strategy? It's also about looking at your industry conditions and taking advantage of opportunities as they pop up. Remember, what we said was you have to be able to have a resource that can capitalize on opportunities and neutralize threats. And the industry is a big part of that. Once you understand what's going on in the industry, particularly around issues of regulation or deregulation, demographics, market maturity. I mean, looking at your BCG matrix, for example. If you're not familiar with your BCG matrix, go back to your intro to marketing. And also, basically, the last thing that is important to the components of business strategy is how do we address these range of activities and issues as a firm? How does it all integrate together into a coherent position and a coherent set of actions and strategies to make that happen? Okay, so as a quick review, there are three basic types of business strategies. One is cost leadership, where we strive to be a low-cost provider for a reasonable level of product quality. So Walmart is a great example of that. They personify that. Dell is also a great example because they make it cheap. And they keep the cost of computers down as low as possible. I remember a time when a desktop computer with maybe a 2 megabyte hard drive, was $2,000. So the fact that you can get, a multi-gigabyte hard drive for a couple of $100 shows you, the role that cost leadership strategies play in driving the prices down on products. So first movers can always charge the highest rates, but over time, the prices start to come down because we find more effective and efficient ways to make products and deliver the services and deliver the products to consumers. So that helps us quite a bit. So the way that they create their competitive advantage is being really good at managing and controlling the operations part of the business. So they minimize excessive expenses. They're very efficient in the way that they do things. They minimize costs where possible. There's no room in the budget because the profit margins are tight. And so when there's no room in the budget, there's no way that you can pay top dollar for things or have variable, reward systems, in play. The next type of strategy, as we're aware of, is the differentiation strategy. And that's, again, a company that focuses on a product or service that is unique, that it is innovative, or it's higher quality, or it has great customer service attached to it, or it has more bells and whistles than other products. The goal is that you don't compete on price, you actually charge more for these products. But what you're offering people is greater innovation, greater product quality, greater service, something that they can say they justify paying top dollar for. Again, that goes back to that trade-off between what people want to pay and for what level of quality. And so when you up the ante in terms of the quality and the innovation, you can charge more. The last strategy is the specialization strategy, which you may have heard as a segmented strategy or a niche strategy. And the niche strategy can be either a cost leadership or a differentiation strategy. You can compete on price, you can compete on innovation, but what you're doing is you're focusing on a small, narrow market, not a broad market. Apple competes in a broad market, but Starbucks competes, Starbucks is going after coffee drinkers, not people who like food, right? So there's a big difference between the scope of people that they are targeting. So the narrower the scope, the more specialized it is. And the goal there is to create what we call that customer intimacy, where we feel like that this company is creating great customer service for my specialized ideas and my specialized needs, and I am loyal to them. So I'm not as loyal to Starbucks because I'm not a coffee drinker myself, but for those who are coffee drinkers, you can understand why they like it, because they can get a coffee any way they like. Skinny latte, extra sugar, double milk, extra shot of espresso, you name it, you can customize it. And that's the niche idea that works. So those are the three basic types of business strategies, as you should be already aware. The last and sort of generic strategy, if you will, has to do with whether you're growing, stabilizing, or shrinking. And the growth strategy is really an important strategy because we recognize that we can grow in a number of different ways. We can grow organically by doing innovation within the company, or we can grow through mergers and acquisitions. And I know that if you've taken Management 430 with me, you have encountered Cisco Systems that grows only by acquisition, and very little internal growth comes from innovation, whereas Apple or Microsoft grows through internal innovation, and they develop new products and new growth that way. So depending on the firm's strategy, that also influences then the staffing strategy that the company has to have. So mergers and acquisitions are an important way to get talent, but and particularly when you don't have the capacity or the capability to develop it in-house. Growth requires us, though, to do a really good job. When we talk about staffing strategies, a really good job of recruiting, attracting, retaining that talent, because we don't want to lose the innovative talent that comes with that organic growth, or is necessary for that organic growth.